the Off-Kilter Crafter.
And I'm Becca.
And I'm Rachel Pierman, and spoiler alert, I'm the first guest on this show.
So exciting to have you here, Rachel. I'm so glad that you could join us all the way from the UK. Isn't technology wonderful?
It is. Can you do your UK accents for me, please, both of you? I demand.
Evening, governor.
Yeah, well, I was told when I did one, I sounded Japanese. So I'm going to plead the fifth.
Yeah.
You're going to plead the fifth?
Tea and biscuits. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that's from, but it's not from the UK. And yours was definitely a little bit Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah,
With
very much
all
so.
right,
Very much so. Well, everyone, we are... Go ahead, Rachel.
Oh my God. I was going to say that's like my Californian impression, though. The girl with the little dog in the bag. I'm just going for like a little coffee with my little doggy in my bag. There you go.
You could be a Valley girl just like Becca did.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my God.
Like, oh my God.
Like, oh my God.
Like, oh my God. Oh my God, you guys. Oh my God. Oh my... Okay.
You got to throw more likes in there. Like really?
What?
Like, oh my
really?
God. Like, okay.
Like, you really like my dog and you really like my bag?
You got to twirl the hair.
Like, really? Like, really?
Guys, if you're listening to the podcast episode, you're missing the visuals happening over on YouTube. Make sure to check us out over on YouTube. We're having a great time where you can actually see us and do all the things. And speaking of see us, let's talk about our quilts really quick. I know we have a non-quilter on at the moment, but we're going to quickly jump into our quilts. Currently on my lap, I have it's a memory quilt, but it is a memory of the shirts that I used to wear when I worked at the Science Museum. There are a lot of shirts in this one. It is a very big quilt, but I love it. And the colors that I chose were actually colors from the museum's website. These are the colors that they used on their website, so I incorporated the colors into it as well. So I have all sorts of different shirts from my time at the Science Museum.
And I just have your quilt on my lap.
You did. You forgot to bring a quilt over.
Didn't.
So
I didn't. And I was like, oh, a quilt. And I grabbed it. And you've shown this one before, so there's no story. Like, go back and watch that episode. It's the Continuum quilt. He's got Minky on the back, and he just used the kit. It has Deco Glow from Juicy Juice.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Rachel can talk about her cardigan.
Yeah, it's a cute cardigan.
It is very new. It is from Zara. It is a beautiful green with a little blue Argyle diamond. I don't know why I did the American accent now.
I love it.
So there you go. I don't own a quilt. I know it's terrible. I run a quilting company. I run quilting classes. I work with artists all over the world. I'm going to be at the Festival of Quilts. I mean, my life is quilts. And yet I do not have a quilt in the house.
I think we can fix that.
What?
We've got several.
You don't own a quilt?
Yeah. No, I don't own a quilt. I've got a great big... I call it the wolf. It's a big fur blanket that I bought many, many years ago. It's not real wolf. But I bought it many years ago. I have that. But if I put that on right now, I'd be absolutely baking because my radio is on. So, no. But no, I don't. I don't own a quilt. It's terrible.
That's hilarious that you own a company for crafting and you don't even have a quilt. Like, you teach classes, or you have people on to teach classes for quilting all the time, and you don't have a quilt. Anyways.
I know.
So... I kind of spoil alert there. You do have lots of people that come on to your Crafty Monkies. Is it officially a website? I don't even remember. This is terrible. But you have people that come to teach classes over Zoom a lot of times. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, as you know, Ian, because you came to one of the classes.
I sure did.
You did, which is how I met you, because I saw your beautiful little smiley face, you and Leo Ransom, I know.
Yep.
And I just thought, who are these interesting two chaps? You know, one thing that is great is when guys come on a class, because it's like so rare. So as soon as a guy comes onto the class, I'm instantly drawn. I want to know the backstory. Basically Crafty Monkies is a platform where you can go to the website, which has just been updated, is looking very swanky, posh. And basically, like now, for example, if you were bored in this podcast, because if you thought, who is this woman and what is this nonsense? and you wanted to go off and do some sewing, of course, you could go to your guys' YouTube channel and follow along, or you could take a Zoom class right now with me, because we have a shop where we have so many previous classes all recorded, and you just rent them and you get them for 60 days. And you could be sewing along with so many amazing artists right now. But then, yeah, we do a live Zoom most Saturdays of the year, not in the summer or Christmas, but we do most Saturdays, and we do a live Zoom class where you can book from anywhere in the world because you pay in your own currency. You turn up in the Zoom window and you sew along, and you get to interact with the teacher. You get to show them their work, your work. If you have any issues, you know, I spotlight you and you hold up your quilt and you go, oh, look, what have I done? And the teacher says, you've done this. And then we teach you. So, yeah, and I host the sessions every week. So I am there, but I am not at all. I'm kind of in the background. So I do chip in, obviously, and chat, but it's the teacher. It's all about the teacher. It's all about the artist. And I try and get artists from all over the world. And yeah, that's it. That's it. And I do retreats as well. And I came to the States last year.
You did. You did. I wish I knew you then, because I would have loved to have come to that. But unfortunately, I didn't quite know you just yet.
I know. That was Pennsylvania we came to last year.
Yeah,
and
that's
really close.
We did the Amish tour. So we went to all the Amish quilt shops and the houses and the school and things like that, which was fascinating. But it was very funny because I said to them on the website, when you book a ticket, I will get your transport sorted out. We will have a lovely coach to take us around all these sites. And then when I tried to book a coach, it was looking at thousands and thousands of dollars. So guess what I booked for us instead? And
Amish buggies.
Yeah, that would have been good. But, you know, I found this super exciting. A yellow school bus.
Oh, good grief. Only
And
Rachel
some ladies
finds that
were
exciting.
Yeah, no, because some ladies were like, oh, this is amazing. We're going to go back to our school years. And some people were like, oh, I remember my school years. But actually, we had a blast. We put the windows down. We sat on those plastic seats or those leather seats that were very hot by the end of the day.
Yes.
But we had a great time. We really did. It was amazing. It was amazing.
That's awesome. Really cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sitting next to someone who might be teaching semi-soon.
Yes, but we're trying to get it sorted, Becca. We're trying to get it sorted, aren't we?
We are. So Rachel has lots of Zoom classes, as she mentioned. And when I recorded an episode with her, she had asked me if I wanted to teach. And I said, sure, let's teach a class, which is great. And it works out for my calendar. But I've got to figure out what I'm going to teach. And I'm having a bit of a hard time, because I definitely have projects up my sleeve that you can start and finish in a session, as long as we break it down and do what needs to happen. But what I don't have is some of the stuff that your classes offer, which is like a unique thing that is like trademarked by you. So like when you book Leo Ransom, you get a portrait quilt because that is his specialty. Mm-hmm. When you book, I don't know, like Sugary Doo, Irina from Sugary Doo, she'll focus like on foundation paper piecing or pixel quilts because that's what she's known for. I'm not really known for anything other than just having fun and embracing what we're doing. And so I'm struggling a little bit with what I would do in the class, but we'll figure something out, and it'll be on her website and you can go check it out.
Yep.
And if anybody is listening to this, just drop a comment below on YouTube. Can you teach this? I mean, Becca, you did say maybe you teach a pattern. So you actually bring a pattern and then you teach it. So for anybody who's a little bit inexperienced and they're thinking, well, I would love to do that. I would like to get a pattern and know how to do it. Maybe that might work. I mean, that's not something that I do generally, but maybe that will be your specialty. I don't know. So
it could be maybe like a quilting 101, because I've been thinking about doing that. So, by the time this goes out, we probably already have figured it out. So if you want to know what it is, what I'm going to be teaching, what I'm going to be doing, just check the description box down below or the show notes, and it'll have a link to the Crafty Monkies website with all the details.
Absolutely.
But where I'm leading in my head is taking a miniature quilt, so like a wall hanging, like a 20-inch by 20-inch, something that could definitely be done in an afternoon where we grab our fabric. We can talk about how we're going to select fabric, right? We're going to cut it together, and then we can kind of piece it together so that by the time you leave, you've gotten an introduction to all of the basics, and it can kind of get you on the road to doing something bigger.
Yeah. Sounds like fun.
I think it's just got to be fun. It's just got to be fun. Because
absolutely.
We do a class at the moment. It's a year-long traditional block class. So you learn a block every month. Actually, you learn 2 or 3, to be honest. And, it's quite straightforward, really, when you're learning a block. It's quite, the first 10, 15 minutes, you kind of got it. But the ladies pay £12.50 a month, which is probably about $16, $17 a month, to just have a Zoom for an hour and a half on a Wednesday night. And you think, well, what else are you going to do on a Wednesday night? And they just come together and they all chat and they sew. It's not difficult. It's about community, which I knew you guys you're really hot on your community because you do your lovely live streams every week. And that's what it's about. It's about just bringing people together and having this joy of sewing. It's not that we're trying to teach you to be the next amazing quilting artist who's going to get the, big show prize at QuiltCon. It's just about having fun.
Definitely. If I were to lean into something that I think I'm known for, I think it would be just that, right? Like getting over your fear and just trying and embracing the process, right? Because you're never going to get better unless you try, and nobody was perfect straight out of the gate. So
definitely.
Yep.
Definitely.
I'm curious though. So I've got a question rolling around in my head. How on earth did a non-quilter end up running a business with other artists teaching quilting? And it's not even like you're like, oh, I love quilts, I collect them, I just don't make them. You said you don't even have one. So what's the story?
Let's go back to the day I was born. No, that would take us about 7.5 hours to go through my life history. No, in all seriousness, let me try and keep it as brief as I can, because I have talked about this story in other places and people might know already. But yeah, basically from being a little kid, wanted to be an actor. Stay with me.
Okay.
Went to drama school, came out, went to a party. Someone said, have you ever thought about TV presenting? No, what is that? And if you think of like Gayle King, I think she's quite topical at the moment. Let's talk about her. But, being a TV presenter, right? So that was it. I didn't know what that was because all I knew was acting. So I went and knocked on the door of this main channel, one of our biggest channels, kind of like knocking on the door of CNN and going, hey, I'd like to sit in front of your camera. And somehow I got a job and I got a great agent. And I was on a trajectory to be a TV presenter. And nice. I was doing quite well. And then reality TV came in. And suddenly everybody wanted reality stars or they wanted experts. So instead of going to someone like me doing a property show, they wanted an estate agent who they would then teach how to present instead of a really good presenter who could learn the lingo. It was bizarre. Anyway, it all got a bit hard to get work. I decided to have a baby. And when I had the baby, everything kind of changed for me mentally. I was like, you know what? I don't want to go and work 68 weeks in the next, 2 years and not see my child.
Yeah.
So I was like, what do I do? And then someone offered me some shopping television. And I did think...
QVC.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of like QVC. And I thought, I'm selling my soul to the devil because I just didn't want to do it. But it was regular money. It was standing in front of a camera. And of course, I always believe that everything is meant to happen. And that was why it was put in my lap. Because at first, yes, I did the kind of QVC thing. Here's a vacuum cleaner. It's the best one in the world until we get the one on next week, which is also going to be the best one in the world. And then one day, that company that was selling vacuum cleaners had a sister channel. And it was called Create and Craft.
Oh.
And the presenter was sick. So they just came through in a panic to the Ideal World Lounge. That was the name of the station. It was not an ideal world, let me tell you. And they said, can Rachel, could you come and step on and do this show? And of course I said, yeah, because it was exactly the same. It was standing in front of a camera with an earpiece and you were just selling something else. But I stood next to these people who were crafting and I was like, what is this world all about? And I actually really enjoyed myself. And it was more me because it was less selly. You were actually, yes, you were selling the paper. You were selling the sewing machines. You were selling the tools, but people were making things. And so we would chat, we would laugh. And the Facebook comments were much different. The people emailing into the show was very different. I loved it. And they got such great reviews on that show that they said, can you come back tomorrow? And this person was sick for a week, by which point they said,
oh, wow.
Would you like to swap channels and come over here? And I jumped at it because I'd had enough of doing vacuum cleaners.
Well, it's very serendipitous that it worked out that way, isn't it?
It was. And then the next serendipitous thing, and Ian, you and I have had lots and lots of chats about this, that everything happens for a reason in life. And you have to look at the blessings of it. You have to look at the positives, even when at the time you feel like it's the end of the world. I was the main breadwinner in our family. Television jobs are very hard to come by. I was working at Crate and Craft. I'd been there for 5 years. And then one day I was taken into a room. I did not know where I was going. It was like Goodfellas, when they walk down the corridor. and they go, just keep going. Just keep going. And the girl's going, where? Just keep going. That's what it was like. And I was like, where am I going? And I went into a room and they just went, thank you so much, Rachel, for your 5 years of service. We no longer require you anymore on the channel.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Your whole world just
everything.
Everything. And I was like, have I done something wrong? And the guy was really like, no. And I said, well, what's happening? Because I was a freelancer on a 0 hours contracts. I didn't have any rights in terms of they didn't have to give me warnings and get rid of me. It was like, your contract is over, goodbye.
Wow.
So I was literally, within an hour, I was given bin bags and I drove out of that studio with 9 bin bags from my dressing room in my car, jobless, now penniless.
With a child and a husband at home that you were supporting.
Yeah. And I knew I wasn't going to get another TV job. And I was like, So it was a shock. But about 6 months previous to that, I really wanted to get out of shopping television. And I'd actually set up a company and I called it Go Blossom. And it was going to be for women and any men who wanted to join in over the age of kind of 40 who wanted to re-find themselves, who wanted to find confidence in themselves. And I had this germ of an idea, and I knew, because I was good friends with a quilter who I'd met at Crate and Craft, I wanted to bring sewing into it because I knew how relaxing it was and that you could find your artistic expression. So I rang her. I pulled over. I shouldn't have been driving because I was in shock. And I remember I pulled over and I rang her. I said, Sarah, I've just lost my job. And she was like, what? And I told her. And then she said, look, don't panic, don't panic, don't panic. We will put on a little sewing event, okay? We'll do it in a church hall, 50 quid a ticket. I know it's not going to be much money, Rachel, but it'll give you some petrol money or some food money. And then I just said, you know what? We're not going to do a church. I'm going to do a luxury retreat in a hotel.
All right.
Oh, wow.
And then I went home and I said to my husband, he was, he prepared my daughter. He said, when mum comes in, she's going to be really down because she's lost her job. And as this is no word of a lie, she stood at the bottom of the stairs. I opened the door and I just went, I'm free falling. And I just felt, although I was in shock. Ooh, ice cream van. Do you want a 99?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Are you going to go run and go grab ice cream and be like, ice cream, come back?
I really would like to bring an ice cream up.
It's funny. I've heard some parents, total tangent, but since it's going by at the moment, I've heard some parents say that they tell their kids when the music is playing, it means it's out of ice cream.
Yes. Yes. We do that over here as well. I never did that. I'm not that mean. But yeah, I've heard that.
I
think he's paused. He may start again.
Okay.
So yeah, so I said to my husband, I'm going to start this company. The Go Blossom thing is going to have to wait because I don't have enough expertise in wellness, but I do know a lot of crafters. So he literally said, okay, you're going to start a company. And I said, yes. And then he said, what are you going to call it? And I said, I don't know. And then he just said, what would you say to people when you were on TV? And I said, oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm a northerner. So I'd go, oh, you cheeky monkey. And he said, what about Crafty Monkies?
Oh, love it.
Oh,
And that was
okay.
it. That was it. And I will say, for anybody listening, you cheeky monkey, you.
Cheeky monkey,
cheeky monkey. For anybody who's listening,
still don't sound right.
If they're going to Google right now to try and look, you're going to come up with a Welsh pottery shop, because you're going to spell it Crafty Monkies. But I misspelt monkeys, which is why it was available everywhere on Instagram and Company's House, and I couldn't understand.
Oh, that makes so much more sense now.
Yeah. So it's Kies, Crafty, MONKIES.com. So that's how the company was born. And I started it with a luxury retreat. But here's where the story changes. But once again, thank goodness, because I don't think I would have survived in the retreat world because I didn't have a big enough audience. My first retreat was in February 2020.
Oh my gosh.
No.
So my other 6 retreats that year were all cancelled.
Yep.
And the money that I'd taken was refunded, and I was back to ground zero. I was back to what do I do? And that was when I just thought, I've got to put some content out on Instagram. I don't know what to do. I didn't know how to do an Instagram live even. I was like, what can I do? And I rang my friend Sarah again. And I said to her, can I interview you? I mean, can we do it? And then I just Googled how to interview someone, and something called Zoom popped up. And I opened this Zoom window, and I was like looking at the buttons going, what is this? And I invited her in, and we sat there looking at each other. And then it was Sarah who said, hang on, can I rejoin on another window? And I said, yes. And she did. And then she put that window, she joined on her phone, because she was on a laptop on the main screen. So her phone was joined, and she turned the phone over to her hand, and suddenly her hand was gigantic in the screen. And she said, so if we were running a sewing class right now, you could see my hands on screen. And I said, And so we launched a sewing class, and it sold out 45 tickets within about 2 hours.
Yeah. That's great.
Well, and especially during COVID, people were really hungry for social interaction, for doing things, because we were all trapped at home. We were all having to figure out how to navigate the world from home. And so I know so many people were hungry to have some kind of
socialization.
That word. They were really hungry to do that. So, yeah. So that's really interesting. Wow, I had no idea. I always wondered where Crafty Monkies came from, because I don't think I knew that story. So it's interesting to know kind of how it formed and where it all came from.
Yeah, the best part of this whole conversation, here I come with the stupidity. I was like, monkeys is spelled wrong? She's literally spelling it. I was like, no, that makes sense to me. Kies.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
I mean, the thing is, though, if you think about it, like, the monkeys, hey, we're the monkeys. Didn't they spell it?
Yeah, that was EE.
Exactly. So I don't think it really, I mean, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, the only time that I knew that it was spelt wrong was when in class, when someone said to me, I love the way you spell Crafty Monkies. It's so cool. And I went, what do you mean?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? And then she said, well,
spelled it the way you're supposed to.
It should be Keys. And I was like, that was it. That was when I realized I'd spelt it wrong. So, but it's fine now.
It makes sense to me. Being dyslexic, I'm like, it's
a letter in the wrong place here and there. It doesn't matter.
It's fine. You read it the same anyway. It's okay.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. I love that backstory.
Yeah. So you started this company doing kind of virtual retreats, if you will, or virtual classes and such like that. How did the podcast get started? Because you interview a lot of people. You interviewed both of us. You've interviewed Leo. You've interviewed Chris from Rose City Originals. You've interviewed Josh. Yep. You've interviewed a lot of people. So first of all, where did you get your therapy degree from? Because you are a therapist. I feel like you are a therapist, because I've definitely felt like I went through therapy sitting down with you and recording that podcast episode. And I hear a lot of other people feel the same. I'm just saying, I think we found your next step in your career is personal therapist. But how did that podcast come about?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because when I first started Crafty Monkies, on that retreat, I put an extra day on before the sewing retreat, which was with my hypnotherapist who I'd seen for anxiety, because I had this weird period in my life where I think it was hormonal, I think it was perimenopause, because I suddenly just developed all of these weird problems, and we got it sorted. But I invited him to come on to the retreat to do some mindfulness. And then I invited the girl to do some brushstroke lettering. So in the morning, people were going to learn how to be calm and breathe and use mindfulness. And in the afternoon, they were going to do brushstroke lettering. And on that retreat, I sold something like 22 places for the sewing retreat, and not one ticket was sold for that day with the mindfulness and brush lettering. People were just not ready for it. I think there has been a huge collective shift in COVID.
Definitely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think people at that point were not ready for it, but it was something that I was always passionate about. I knew that I wanted to bring, that's why Go Blossom was there. I wanted people to learn about their own journeys and paths in life and their own minds. I wanted to do it. So I tried quite a few times with Monkeys and it never worked. And then the tipping point, I guess, was that my dad died, and this was in 2022. And sadly, before my dad died, we weren't speaking. And then I did get to see him, but some things happened afterwards that I didn't know about. And we had a really fantastic relationship all of my life, but my dad got severe anxiety towards the end of his life, and it just all went a bit wrong. I tried to help him. I tried to get a therapist. It just went very, very wrong. And we ended up having this big fallout 4 months before he died. And then he got leukemia, and then I rushed to see him. But that brought up a lot of issues for me, because I realised, and Ian, you and I have talked about this in your podcast, about the father wound, that I think a lot of that generation, our fathers, their fathers were in the war. And I think that certainly in my dad's case, my granddad discovered Belsen, one of the first concentration camps. And when he came back, or my dad said he remembered that when he came back, he was not the same man, and he was very strict. And it was a case of, don't you ever show any emotion, because how dare you? You've got a blessed life compared to what I've seen in Germany.
Yeah.
And my dad grew up not able to express his emotions. And so we developed this kind of avoidant and anxiously attached dynamic in a way. And my parents got divorced. So throw in a divorce and then this avoidant dad, who loved me to bits and was wonderful. He taught me to craft every weekend. We would craft together. But he could not show his emotions. And he only said, I love you once. And that was when it was at the bottom of the steps when I was getting married. And I just turned around and I said, I love you, Dad. And he went, I love you too. But I think it was the absolute stress of the situation that made him kind of forget where he was and say it. So I just felt like now is the time for me to start facing these issues about myself. And I'd had a couple of toxic friendships as well that were teaching me the anxious and avoidant thing, what I was doing. And I realized that all of my life, I was one of those people who would say, I don't know why this drama just follows me around. Why does it happen to me? And it's because we seek it out. We seek it out or we attract it because we're on that level. And I just thought enough is enough. I can't carry on doing this. I can't keep being this person who is just constantly chasing emotionally unavailable situations, whether it's work colleagues, whether it's friendship, whether it's romantic, whatever it is. I've been married for 30 years to my wonderful husband, he is not avoidant. He is a wonderful, wonderful person. But, we've had ups and downs in the relationship. I have hurt him in the past. I'm not going to go into it, but I have because of my behavioural issues. And I just thought, this has to stop, Rachel. This has to stop because I was pushing away people who really loved me.
Yeah.
Because all of what I've just said. So I thought, right, I am going to talk about this with other people because I know other people are suffering. And I want to know their stories. But for anybody who listens to the podcast, I want people to go, oh, it's not just me.
Yes.
That's why I'm doing this. Maybe I should go get counseling, or maybe I should start thinking about this stuff. Or it's not just me that is sometimes sat in my bed, unable to move for 2 days. And everybody is on Instagram having the best time of their lives. And it's only me that doesn't have any friends. It's only me that feels lonely. No, it's not.
Yeah.
So I
It's
wanted
interesting. So when we did my episode, I released it, or you released it rather, and I heard from people that I have not heard from in years. A lot of people listened to that episode just because they know me, right? So they wanted to hear more about that story. And there were things that we talked about in that episode that I have not shared with anybody. So it was getting into a little bit of that background. But what came out of that was my sister started a text conversation with Ian and I. And Alicia was like, "Oh my goodness." That was like, she was mind blown. She loved it and has gone down the rabbit hole of breaking the blocks. She loves listening to all the episodes, but she's always kind of been into that like self-help therapy kind of healing, breaking the cycle journey. As she said, when she loaded my episode to listen to it, it was really hard for her because she didn't know what was going to get brought up. And she was afraid it was going to be triggering for her. And so she was trying to do a little bit at a time. And she kept having to tell herself, it's her story, not mine. It's her story, not mine. And then by the time she got to the end of it, she was really happy that she listened to it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think all of your episodes on your podcast have that centric theme of human stories, right? And so if you listen to one because you follow that creator, maybe you listen to Ian's because you're like, oh, I love Ian, and now you want to listen to his podcast, that's great. But that same dialogue happens when you have Josh on or when you have Sarah on. It doesn't matter who's there. They don't have to be a big name to have a story. And I feel like as we dive into those stories or you start listening, there's a recurring theme. We're all broken in some way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the greatest thing about that. Like you mentioned, like you get to see other people are struggling with the same thing that you may be struggling with. And like it really connects us as humans being like, oh, I'm not alone in this journey. I'm not alone in this experience. Like there is someone else out there, because whenever we get depressed or, you know, go through something traumatic, there's a lot of isolation that happens with it of like, oh, I'm the only one that feels this way. And it's good to remind ourselves that we're not, we have lots of people who feel that way.
Exactly. And I think through those conversations as well, like with you, Ian, you know, I think when we said, you know, I'd interview you, we kind of had an idea what we were going to talk about, which was, you know, maybe the Trump situation, the, you know, gay rights being revoked for marriage and things like that. I think we knew maybe that was going to be one of your blocks. And I'm sorry if that's triggering to anybody who's listening. I know some people got really angry about it, but you know, that is something that affects you in your life. And I think we are all entitled to our own pain, which I'll come to in a second. But it was interesting that just through the conversation, we came on to the father wound. And I said something about my dad, and I said about, you know, we have to imagine our fathers as being these little boys, or our mothers, little people who weren't given the love and affection they needed. And when they grow up, they don't know how to give it themselves because they were never given it. So instead of looking at your adult parent going, oh, you horrible person because of what you've done, you have to see them as they were children who were not treated very well themselves. And that's not to say that my granddad was horrible. My granddad went through extreme trauma. I mean, you would. How would you ever sleep again after discovering a concentration camp? Yeah. And, you know, my mother-in-law did the same thing. She was a social services nurse who saw the worst cases of child abuse and had to go to courts. So she treated her children so strictly and in some cases quite aggressively. When they hurt themselves, when they needed care, she would say, basically the same thing. Shut up. There's nothing wrong with your life.
Yeah.
And this is something that my therapy, because I did have therapy for 5 years, which is maybe where a bit of the therapy stuff comes in. But my therapist said something that is so important. I once sat there and said to her about all the issues I was having, because I was a very angry, bitter person. And I had lots. I had this character that I called her, I would imagine she sat on my shoulders, and she was called Bitch Features. And Bitch Features would come out when I was really feeling insecure in a situation.
Yeah.
Bitch Features would sit there and go on, give something back that's nasty, go on. And I would mouth off. And I remember having a huge argument with my husband and his friend in Chelsea. I'd come out of drama school. I wasn't doing particularly well. And there was an actress called Patsy Kensit. You probably don't know her in America, but in England, she was quite big at one point. But she was, a bit ditzy, a bit blonde. I wouldn't say that there was huge, great acting royalty there, but she was doing well.
Sure.
And I was resentful of this because I was like, well, I'm not doing well. And Steve, my husband's friend, said something about Patsy Kensit and, but she's really good looking. And I was like, so what? And this Bitch Features character started going, go on. And then I just turned into this aggressive, arrogant person. And the other little Rachel was on my shoulder going, stop it. Stop. What are you doing? Stop it. You're hurting us. But this character was going, and when I went to my therapy, I used to talk about this. I am glad to say, Bitch Features, I've not seen her in years. Don't know what she's doing these days. She's probably very sad and lonely somewhere. But my therapist said to me, I said, Tess, I wasn't, as a child, trigger alert, right? I wasn't sexually abused. I wasn't physically abused. And, talking to you, Becca, and your story, I didn't have any of that you went through. I just had an emotionally avoidant parent.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to my therapist, so I don't deserve to be sitting here with these problems. And she said, you absolutely do. Because your pain is relative to you and it's relevant. And if you are in pain, you deserve the chance to work through that pain to then go forward in your life in a better manner. You cannot. And it's like, that's what, if a friend says to you ever, well, it could be worse. Look at so-and-so. She's just lost her husband. Well, it's terrible for so-and-so that's lost her husband.
I like to take that and I don't like it could be worse, look at so-and-so. I like to change it to be, well, the bright side is, right? Always try to look for the positive in the situation. I always say this, sometimes you have to shovel a pile of manure to get to it, but there's something good there. But the other thing, and I think this is what you were alluding to, Rachel, is everybody's feelings are totally valid.
Yeah.
If Ian and I are both going through a struggle, right? Like he has his history with his dad and I had my history with my mom. My childhood looked drastically different than his. And in some cases, I would say that some of the stuff that I went through is probably more severe than what he did.
For sure.
But it doesn't mean that his wasn't any less traumatizing to him.
Exactly.
Right?
It's all about that frame of reference.
That's right.
We only know what our frame of reference is. And even though our experiences were very different, our frame of reference is also very different.
That's right.
And absolutely. I think that is so important to remember. It's like a kid who, you tell them, they're 5 years old and you tell them, no, you can't have ice cream for dinner.
Oh, they're going to have the ice cream.
They throw a fit about it and they're not able to they're throwing a fit and, you're like, why are you so upset? I'm just telling you can't have ice cream for dinner. And, they're still, that's like one of the most, what am I trying to say? Like they're really affected by that because at that moment and that frame of reference for them, that is the worst thing that has ever happened for them.
Yeah.
And so they, it's, even though we're like, come on, I'm just saying no to ice cream. And they're like screaming about it. And it's like, no, in that moment and in that frame of reference, they are crushed and their world has just shattered because you're not letting them to do that. So I always try and remind myself and think about that frame of reference.
Yep. Yeah. And that's not to say that sometimes in my life the silver lining hasn't been that it could be worse, because that's absolutely true. But whenever somebody says it could be worse, look at so and so, or compare something to somebody else, that to me feels like you are minimizing their feelings.
Exactly.
And you're not validating, right? You're not even helping them to get over it.
Right.
Exactly. Right. It does not help you. And if you're depressed and someone says, "Oh, come on, snap out of it."
Right.
You can't, okay, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I think
I wished I could.
That's the point.
Yeah, and by looking at something positive, by just changing the dynamic of the conversation, you're starting to grab onto the positive aspects. When you're saying, no, it could be worse, look at so-and-so, you're just continuing that cycle of going down the drama and the negative.
Yeah.
You said something at the beginning of the episode. You were talking about how you're not one of those people that loves drama, and you were that person walking around going, I don't love drama. Why does it always find me? And you said something while we were talking in our episode that kind of got me thinking a little bit about that. And I think part of that reason is it's what you know, right? Like, so I have had friendships in the past and familial relationships in the past that were very toxic. They were very consuming. And it seemed like that relationship with that person always had drama, always had drama. And it wasn't necessarily that I was creating it. I was just allowing myself to have a seat at the table where the drama was. And so the reason why it was following me around isn't because I was going around and creating it. It's because I was accepting invitations to the table where the drama was. When I started realizing that I could have friendships and relationships that didn't need to have that element, it was a whole different world, because then I was able to see what a healthy relationship looked like and what it looked like to have somebody that genuinely cared for you and wanted to root for you, as opposed to somebody that was constantly trying to compete with you or make you feel horrible about yourself. When that happened and I started surrounding myself with the people that were investing in me and not carrying drama or bringing drama themselves or even creating it, it was just I don't have the right word, but it just blew my mind that I could have a friendship with somebody that was a genuine love or a genuine reciprocal type of thing. So anyway, all that to say, I feel you on the drama stuff.
But you know something as well, isn't it? It's interesting how when you start changing your attitude and you change. I mean, I do believe I believe in energy. I think we're all energy and we all put energy out to the world. And I think it's like magnets. We attract energy like
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's like, since I've been changing, and changing my attitude, changing my perspectives, changing my behavior, I am meeting the most incredible people. And it's like you guys, somehow you came into my world, Ian, you came into my class. Somehow you and I talked. I've interviewed you. We've become friends. We have these crazy WhatsApp conversations and Snapchat filters where we're popping out of toilets and things. It's hilarious.
Yes.
But, I've found you. And then through you, Josh, who also now I talk to, and you, Becca, you meet like-minded people. And just going back as well to what you were saying there, my therapist said to me something years ago, which was brilliant. If I would go to her and say, oh, Tess, I did it again. Okay, what did you do? Oh, I did this and I pushed that person away and la, la, la. And she said, what you're doing is you are fulfilling your script. And your script is that you must either chase people who are emotionally available, or you are pushing people away because they're getting too close and that scares you. So you push them away, you sabotage it. That is your script. And your script is comfortable to you because you know it. You know the lines, you've rehearsed it, you've read it, you've been there, you know how it ends, you know how it begins. Comfortable, so comfortable. And that's your script. And but what you have to do is change that script. You have to change that behavior. And it's like when if you meet people, you've had a toxic upbringing and you meet someone and you say to them, oh, it's like that Hollywood thing. You feel like home to me. That's really bad.
Trauma bound, right?
It's trauma bonding. So,
Yeah.
and it can be so easy to fall into that trap of thinking that you're madly in love with someone and you're not. You're just trauma bonded to them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
it's the same thing. You have to start changing your mindset and changing your behavioral patterns and your outlook. And when you do, everything starts becoming clear. Oh,
It
that's why I
does.
ignored that.
Yep.
That's why I ignored that behavior. That's why I accepted that. And when it
Yep.
comes down to it, the biggest thing is self-respect.
Absolutely.
I
100%.
disrespected the people that I hurt, but the person I disrespected the most was myself.
Was you?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
I devalued myself.
It's so interesting when you think about that, because I'm thinking of one relationship in particular where the dynamic of that friendship, now looking back on it, was so toxic. And I couldn't see it in the moment. That relationship for me, I was always told or made to feel like I was less than, I wasn't good enough, I didn't do a good enough job, I did things wrong. And it was everything from how I raised my daughter to, it was everything. It was the entire gamut of it. But yet, I allowed that person to continue telling me that. And I kept trying to fix myself and change those things about me because I wanted that person to be happy with me. And then one day, well, it wasn't one day, it took a few months, maybe even a year's worth of all this building up. But eventually I got to the point where I just wasn't going to do the thing that they were trying to manipulate me into. And so I started saying no and standing up for myself, and not like mean no, just no, I don't really think I want to do that, and putting those boundaries up. And when those boundaries started going up, the whole relationship just dissolved almost overnight. And I've not looked back.
Of course. One of the biggest red flags is when you start changing and someone says to you, "Oh, I really miss the old you."
Yes! I had that conversation happened at least 2 or 3 times. I miss you. Where have you been?
Yeah.
Well, I'm changing. I don't want to be your, what is it? Whipping pony. I don't, whipping post. That's it.
Yeah, your whipping post, your punching bag. There's a great meme, actually. There's a great meme on Instagram, and it's very funny. And it's a man, and he's drinking some tea from bone china. And I'll swear, because you can bleep it out, because it's the swearing that makes it funny.
Okay.
And he's sitting there with his teacup. And I don't know if there's a voiceover that says it, or there's a type on the screen, or he says it. But he definitely says that line. That line comes up, I really miss the old you. And he drinks his tea and he goes, I bet you fucking do. I bet you fucking do. Because it's that, I do. I bet you miss the old me, the one who just gave you everything that you wanted while you could manipulate me. It is.
Exactly.
But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
You can't.
And that I said to my husband the other day, it's taken me 55 years, because I'm 56 in September. It's taken me 55 years. And you know something? I think I have finally found peace. And that's not to say my life is perfect, because there are all sorts of things that go wrong. But it's that inner peace. And I no longer see it as boring or dull and the need to go and get some adventure to get rid of that peace. When you really feel at peace with yourself, it's a beautiful thing, but it takes...
It really is. I can't tell you how many times, I'm still growing, I'm still maturing. And as I mentioned in our conversation, I remember you asked me, where do I want to be? And I was like, I just don't want to go backwards. I just want to keep going forwards. I want to keep evolving. I want to keep growing. And so I am open to, from people who are in my inner circle and I know have my best interest, I am open to hearing ways that I can evolve and grow.
Yeah.
But there are only certain people that I will accept that feedback from, because I know they know me inside and out, and I know they have my best interests at heart, and they're not using that to manipulate me to get me to do what they think I ought to do.
Exactly.
I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, you were
That was
talking
wonderful.
about, healing, but I want to say on that as well, your healing journey, when you decide, right, I'm going to change, I'm going to make some changes, and you start the self-exploration, just to anybody listening out there, you will slip back. You will slip back.
Absolutely.
You'll have bad days. You'll do that behavioral thing. You will slip back. But you just have to keep persevering and keep going and going and going until eventually you will be on that kind of precipice. But the great thing is, I see it as a load of mountains. It's like it's like in the film, one of my favorite films. Should we fly so close to the mountains? The film Alive. Have you seen that? True story.
I have not.
Think so.
I haven't.
Okay. It's the true story of the plane
I've
crash,
seen it.
where the rugby team all crash, and then they survive and then they have to climb their way out of the mountains.
That's right.
Wow.
And it's pretty horrific what happens on that plane. But it's a great story of just what, as a human being, you can achieve, because the two boys they walked out of the Andes in regular anoraks, coats, and rugby shoes and socks. And, if you think about the mountaineers now, how is that possible? But they did it.
Yeah.
But that film, when they're climbing up this mountain, and they believe that when they get to the top of the mountain, they're going to see the green valleys and they're going to be able to walk down and get a rescue team. And when they get to the top of the mountain, all they see are more mountains. But they kept going and they kept climbing the next one and the next one and the next one until eventually they got the green. And then they still had to keep going after that, because then there were all sorts of questions about how you survived. I won't talk about it. You can read the book or watch the film. But that's the point. I see healing as like that. You go up to the top of a mountain, you get the most amazing view and feeling, but then there's another mountain to climb, but that's fine.
Yeah.
You go up that one and you have to keep learning and evolving. And I think that if at any point in your life you sit there and think, I'm done, I'm healed, I'm fine, well then, no, there's something wrong there, because you have to keep healing all the way through your life. That's what we're not looking. Do.
You're not looking at the next mountain.
No.
You're just looking up into the sky and being like, "Oh, I'm healed. Everything's great." And
that in itself is a trauma response.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That in itself is, I've met plenty of people who have a lot of faults and they think they don't. And they project their faults onto other people. And I have learned that those people are dangerous too, because they trigger my people pleasing and make me want to change myself to get their acceptance and their love. And we don't need to play that game.
Yeah.
I am good enough.
Well, Rachel, it's been wonderful talking to you today,
Thank
but
you.
I have a question for you. Are you ready for 20 rapid fire questions?
Dun, dun, dun.
I guess I'll have to be. It'd be rude if I said no, I'm left right now.
I know. This was something that I didn't tell you about. I didn't even tell you, Becca, about this, but I thought this would be a fun little thing that we could do to our guests. Since you're our first guest, I figured this would be a lot of fun. So, are you ready, Rachel?
Maybe it'll be a whole segment with others.
Yes.
I'm the guinea pig.
I hope it is. I hope it is.
I'm the
All
guinea
right, here we go. Question 1, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird, night owl?
Night owl.
Beach vacation or city vacation?
Oh, at the moment it's beach, because I've not been on one for 5 years. So yeah.
Fair enough. Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Netflix or YouTube?
Come on, Rachel.
Netflix.
Oh! All right. Text or call?
Oh, that's difficult, because you see, Ian, you and I, we are always we leave voice notes for each other, so it's kind of text and
So
call.
both.
Both.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes, because I make beautiful ones. American breakfast ones. They're thick, juicy, and delicious.
Okay, I know where I'm going to breakfast when I visit. That's happening. Book or movie?
A movie. I know. Sorry.
Are we ready for the other half?
Yes.
Okay, take a breath. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay, introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert, I'd say.
Okay. Ice cream in a cone or in a cup?
Cone?
Sneakers or sandals?
Sneakers.
Horror or comedy?
Oh, comedy. I can't bear horror. I can't watch that Demi Moore thing. I've seen the trailer. I just can't.
I can't do horror. No.
Okay, are you a green bubble or a blue bubble? iPhone or Android?
Oh, iPhone.
Okay, good choice.
Good choice.
Road trip or flight?
Oh, a flight.
Yeah.
Cake or pie?
Cake.
Okay. Super strength or invisibility?
Oh.
Oh.
Do you know what? I'm going to go for super strength, right? Because my initial reaction was invisibility. But you know what? Then you would be in rooms that you don't want to be in when people are talking about you. That would horrify you and damage you for life. So let's go for super strength and let's be positive.
Okay. There you go. Mountains or ocean?
Mountains.
Okay. Last one. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Would you rather time travel to the past or the future?
These are deep.
That's a good question.
It is.
The future. No, I'm done with the past. I'm done. I'm healed. I'm over it. Let's see where it's going.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Way to be positive and look forward.
Yeah, literally.
Dun dun dun.
Good job, Rachel. That was tough. I don't know if I could pull out some of those answers as quick as you did. That was good.
Maybe I would, but some of them might be lies just because I'm saying the first word that comes to my mind.
Yeah, but do you know, you should always go with the first thing that comes because that's your instinct.
Yeah.
That's your instinct. It only takes you 2 or 3 seconds to decide. That's the voice you have to listen to, your instinct. And so often we don't. We start questioning ourselves, and that's when we get it wrong. If you meet someone and within literally a few seconds you go, "Ooh, something wrong there," that's right. Listen to that. Don't convince yourself.
Definitely.
All right.
And don't get in the Uber with them.
For sure. Rachel, I want to thank you so much for being our first guest. It has been absolutely lovely.
Lovely.
You're a real lovely, you are.
It's been lovely talking to you today. Let's just recap really quickly. Where can people find you on the internet? There are multiple places, so let's cover those once again just to make sure everybody knows exactly where they can see you, hear you, and take a class from you.
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't have an OnlyFans account until things get off. And then I might be sticking my feet in some jam. So at the moment, it's not happening.
Oh my gosh. He's snorting. That's great.
Was not expecting that answer.
You know when you can update it, right? If it happens.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So no, you can find me on Instagram, Breaking the Blocks, and Crafty Monkies. Remember?
IES.
So, yep, that's where you can find me. And then on Facebook, Crafty the Monkies.
Crafty the Monkies. That's a new one.
Crafty Monkies on Facebook. I got rid of Breaking the Blocks on Facebook because I don't know why, but it sat at like 18 viewers forever. And I was like, I'll get rid of this. But Instagram, it's doing very nicely. And then YouTube I changed the channel name because Becca, my YouTube guru, said to me, maybe you should be Breaking the Blocks now, not Crafty Monkies, because the majority of stuff on there is the podcast. But I do have loads and loads of sewing videos on there as well. So it is Breaking the Blocks on YouTube. No. Can I just tell you that story, Ian? You know the story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to tell you.
I do.
So
I do, actually.
You know, Becca was saying to me for ages, change the name. And of course I kept going, I will. Eventually I did. And then discovered that 3 weeks previously, which is, if I'd listened to Becca, it would have been fine. Someone had called their channel Breaking the Blocks.
Oh.
And I thought, no. So I went in to see if I could please ask them, look, what are you doing? There is one video on the Breaking the Blocks channel, and it is he sounds about 5 years old. He has one video where he goes, here's some Lego. I'm going to drop it and see if I can break the block. And it doesn't. And that is my channel. And of course, I couldn't even message him and say, Can I have the channel name, please? So, and I don't think he's posted since. Bless him. But anyway, it is Breaking the Blocks podcast. That is the name of the channel. But you'd find it if you put Breaking the Blocks in, but it's Breaking the Blocks podcast.
Yeah, and we'll put all those links in the description box so that you can get to them quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. It has been an absolute joy. It's been a joy.
Sure. I loved it. It was great.
It was great.
It was it was great.
It was a moment. It was a moment.
Let go of my leg.
Can I come back on again?
Absolutely. We'd love to have you back on again. 100%. Absolutely.
It's good to see her, isn't it?
It is good to see her.
All right, Ian. I don't think this podcast is perfect.
No, but it is finished.
And finished is almost as good as perfect.
Well, I mean,
it's better than.
I feel like Rachel's pretty perfect. Because I feel like she needs. I feel like she needs to be a voice talent because I need to hear her all over. She could read the phone book, and it would be great.
She has, and you have loved every moment of it. Maybe that's how we can end this podcast. Rachel, could you just read the phone book for us for a moment?
The first listing is Mrs. Pierman. You can find her in England on Tybalt Street, number 32, and her phone number is 567-432-1943.
And how many of us were just hanging on every word to number one because we loved the accent, but number two wondered if that was actual phone number?
I know.
All made up out of my head. Really I do not live on Tybalt Street, and that is not my phone number.
Okay, good. So it was all fake. When you said 567, I literally was like, no, 867-5309.
Oh my gosh. And on that note, everybody, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye. Everyone.
Bye.